Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am super excited. We have some great tips put together for you today. So my name is Megan, and I am the manager of Two Bright Lights, and I am joined by Greg Todd, who is the owner and chief analyst of GT Marketing and Consulting. We are so happy to have him here with us today. We've actually had the pleasure of speaking at the same workshops twice already this year, which is crazy. That never happens where my path crossed so many times with the same person. But every single time I have learned so much. And so I knew it was the perfect opportunity to get him on one of our webinars so that he could be speaking here to you. And the fact that it's all about easy social media tips that you can implement, let's be honest, we all have so many things on our list that we're trying to get done in a day. So if we can have something that is sort of a to-do list or ways that we can make things easier for ourselves, I am all for it. So you obviously did not join today to hear from me. You are joined to hear from Greg. So without any more delay, I am going to hand things over to Greg and have him take it away.
Thank you, Megan. Good morning, everybody. So excited to be here with you. Appreciate everybody who is tuned in and everybody who will watch later on the replay. As Megan said, I do own GT Marketing and Consulting. I do social media management, basic website design, and business coaching and consulting. So a lot of what I do, just to tell you a quick background, I have a unique perspective on things compared to some people who do social media and marketing, in the fact that I share an office and a home with my wife, Cece of Cece Designs, who does luxury florals and event design here in Birmingham, Alabama, and throughout the Southeast. And my business kind of grew out of a need for her. So like many of you watching today, probably you get filled up with the overwhelm of all the things you have to do, from running your business, ordering your products, meeting with clients, booking your clients, taking care of employees. Oh, and then you also need to post on Instagram, post on Facebook, post on Pinterest, keep up your website, do Snapchat, and hundreds of other things that come around in a day's time. And she was just overwhelmed with all of that. And I have a business management degree from Samford University with an emphasis in marketing. And so one day, sitting in our living room, I said, why don't you just let me handle all of your marketing? And she was leery at first because she didn't know if I could speak like her or get across to the female demographic. But after some research and getting started, I realized real quick that I could make her page sound like she was used to sounding, post at the right times, and do all the things that I like to do, kind of as a little bit of, I affectionately call myself an analytics geek because I love the numbers behind what you're doing. So I took that over for her, and GT Marketing and Consulting was born out of that when people started asking her how in the world she was on all these social media platforms and having time to do that with all of the events she does. And she's like, my husband does it for me. And jokingly, a few people said, wow, I wish my husband would do that for me. And she said, well, why don't you hire mine? And the inquiry started coming in, and GT Marketing and Consulting was born. Started as a side hustle, and eventually had enough clients that I quit my corporate 9-to-5 job and came to work full-time for myself and help her with weddings and events on the weekends. So I say all that just to say that I understand what most of you are dealing with, more so than just the marketing. So I have an understanding of the background of the types of creative businesses that you run. So what I'm here to do today is, not everybody can afford to turn their social media and marketing over to someone else. If you do have that in your budget and want to talk about that, at the end, I'll have all my information and would love to talk to you. But today's topic is how the things that you can do for yourself to help with the overwhelm, and to have a few tips and tricks to help you get the most out of your marketing efforts. So let's roll on here. So that are relevant on any of the social media platforms. So some of the things I'm going to talk about here in just a few minutes are specific to certain platforms, being Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest is kind of what we're focusing on today. But regardless of what platform you're on, make sure that the tips that you're sharing, or the things that you're sharing, are useful and easily reshareable. So whether it be a repost on Instagram, share it on Facebook, or pinned on Pinterest, make sure it's something that people would find useful, relevant, or entertaining. The other thing is, try to create original content. This is easier said than done. I know that with everything else you've got going on, that's hard to do, but I know a lot of people who interact with Two Bright Lights are planners, and especially obviously a lot of photographers are on today, I'm sure. You have access to those images and the original content right there at your fingertips. So it's just a matter of picking and curating what you want to share with the world. The next thing you want to do is always have a call to action to invoke engagement. This can be as simple as talking about something specific in the image you're sharing and ask people to comment their favorite thing that's related to that. It could be interaction about day of the week, whether it be Tip Tuesday or Flower Friday or Hump Day or Memorial Day or some other holiday. There's ways you can get people engaged. The other thing is, obviously, you can always include an offer, a discount, or a promotion. People love free, people love discounts, and people love a competition. So if you wanted to do some kind of giveaway where it requires them to interact with your page or other collaborators, then that works out well also. Now, we're not talking websites today, we're talking about social media, but I did want to talk briefly about the importance of a blog. Most people on here probably have a blog, with so many people being photographers and other creative professionals. But if you don't, the reason you want to create a blog is to establish your credibility in the industry. The most important thing is to be consistent. The more you blog, the more it's going to help with your SEO, which is search engine optimization. That's the way you get found on Google. But obviously, the most important thing is to be consistent. So start slow and be consistent with when you post and the type of things that you're posting. Some fun things that you can do is share behind the scenes looks into your world. Everybody loves that. It doesn't have to be an amazing, over the top, luxurious wedding or event or product rollout every time you do a blog. So it is very easy to do some behind the scenes stuff. Another thing you can do is like what we're doing today, tips and tricks as a way to create your own authority within your little niche market in your world. The other reason, and the way that this ties in with what we're talking about today from social media, is that you're going to share your blog content out to your other platforms. You're going to pin it to Pinterest. You're going to share a link to it on Facebook. You're going to share it with some kind of link in your profile on Instagram. So this gives you original content like we were talking about without having to recreate the wheel. Too many people think that you need all brand new content on all platforms. And while you do want to share it relevant to each platform, it can be the same basic thing. So you can have one image that reflects something positive on Instagram, but it's tying them back to your blog, and a different image that speaks more to your Facebook audience, but still is going to drive them back to your blog. And then thirdly, Pinterest, you're going to have the image that looks great on, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a few minutes. What can you do for blogs? So again, there's tons of question and answer sites online. These are great sources for keyword and content ideas. One of my favorite things to do when I'm stuck trying to figure out what I want to blog for my clients is just search questions that may be related to their particular niche market and see what doesn't come up with answers. Google's whole purpose is to find the answer you're looking for. So if you can't find a good answer for something that you know your product or service would provide, that's a great blog topic. Gives you a perfect way to get in there and answer things that people are going to be searching for. If you searched for it, you know other people will be looking for it as well. So let's talk a little bit about Instagram.
Hey, Greg, sorry to interrupt,
Make sure
but
yes.
It looks like the slides aren't changing. So I don't know if I know it was working before.
Yes.
So if you want to try, I know it might be dangerous, but close out the screen share and then try doing it again.
Okay. Are you seeing that on your end, Megan?
I see Instagram. I know Kim and Don, I know you were saying that you were having issues. If you could let us know if you're seeing that. But I do see the screen that says Instagram.
Awesome.
Oh,
and
good.
Just so
yeah, great. People can see it.
People can see it. Great. And
yeah.
and I'm happy to share the whole slide presentation with you after it's over, Megan. So if we want to put a link at the end, I'll be happy to send this out to everybody. If anybody has troubles with the connection, they can have full access to this to go back and refer to. So I don't have a problem with that. All right. So if everybody can see it, we're going to go here, and I'll check in with you when I scroll to the next slide to make sure you can see it, and we'll go from there. So Instagram, the biggest thing that I hear in the creative world, you hear a lot of things about analytics and the algorithm and how that affects your reach, and are people going to see my account? I encourage everybody to use the business Instagram account. You've probably heard some people say, well, I think you can reach more people with my personal because they don't mess with the algorithm and all of that. And I've heard lots of people try to convince me of that. But the tools and insights that you get by having a business Instagram account are so valuable that the risk and reward is worth having the business Instagram account. You want to be able to have the business profile, as you see on the second phone screen there in the image on your screen. That allows people to be able to see your address. It allows them to connect directly with you and know about you. The insights that you get there on the third one, once you reach at least 100 followers, it will tell you when your followers are interacting with your page, how many you have, how many new ones you're getting on a weekly basis, and which one of your posts are operating the best and reaching the most people. And then, of course, you also have paid promotions that you can get into. You want to utilize, track the ideal client. Megan, I'm just going to stop just real quick and make sure, are you seeing the next slide?
I'm still seeing Instagram.
Still seeing Instagram. All right, so what we're going to do a little workaround here. We're going to stop it with each slide, and I'll say hi to everybody, and then we'll go back, and we'll just beat the system since the technology is wanting to work against us today.
There you go.
Stop it and restart it with each slide. So again.
Oh, there we go. Yep, it's good now.
Good. Okay, great. So your profile page is a free billboard. This is where you can put your information to attract, inspire, entertain, or educate your potential clients and other vendors that you want to work with on a monthly basis. So this is the one that I referred to earlier. This is my wife's account. If you see right there in the middle where it says CC, floral designer and speaker, that is when you go into your profile, that'll be your name. You want that is in bold print because it's a searchable keyword term on Instagram. So you don't want to put just your name or just the name of your business. You want to put something there that's a searchable term that you want to be found for. So for her, floral designer and speaker are two terms that we want her found when people search. Then you want to just have a little bit of fun and have a little bit of personality. Lover of pink, glittery, entertaining, sassy, luxury weddings and events tells you what she does. Based in Alabama, travel welcomed. And then we use a Linktree link, which if you're not familiar with that, you can go to Linktree's website. And basically that allows you to have multiple links, because Instagram only allows you to have one website listed. This gives you multiple links to where if you want to take them to a specific speaker page, or you have a blog you want to share but you don't want it up all the time, or if you have an education tab, or you have something coming up and you want to be able to redirect them to multiple places, Linktree is a good way to do that when it comes to Instagram. So Instagram is by far the most used from a creative perspective right now. It is the hottest trending one, and it's obviously very image dominated. So it allows you to reach that ideal client, but to find you. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your profile is set up properly. So we're going to switch screens again, so bear with me. And so here we go. With any of these, including Instagram, the most important thing is to be consistent. So you want to use a profile picture that best represents your brand. Many of you are entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, and are the face of your brand. If you're the face of your brand, don't be afraid to put your face out there as the profile picture. Whatever you decide, utilize the same or a very similar profile picture across all of your platforms so that people can start to recognize you. So if you want to use your logo or if you want to use your face, use that across Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Snapchat, anything else you're on when you do branded print material for a magazine or promotional cards or mailers, any of that. Be consistent. People want to know who you are and start to get that brand awareness. So you want to be aware of who they're getting used to seeing. So put that smiling face out there, or that beautiful logo that you spent so much time curating and creating your brand. Whichever one you choose, just be consistent on those. Now, Instagram, what are some tips that you can do on your own that'll grow your following and get you more likes and followers? Well, I'm glad you asked. The best thing you can do is interact with other profiles. So you have to engage. It's called social media it's the new word of mouth. It's the new conversation across the water cooler that you used to hear previous work generations talk about. This is the new water cooler. Social media is where you get out and interact with others. The easiest way to do that is to utilize the search function in Instagram. You go to your tags and search for hashtags that you would use or ones that would relate to your business and find the top 9 pictures. I know the picture is a little blurry on this one, but I just used one, Southern Weddings, very popular, 280,000 posts. But these are the top 9 images right now as of last night for Southern Weddings. So if this was a hashtag that you would like to interact with, or at least would relate to your ideal client, then take the time, just pick the top 9 of this hashtag, go in and click on each one, like and comment on those pictures, because the people who are posting those pictures have a similar demographic to you. So you're not necessarily trying to get the people who posted the picture to follow you, although they may. What you're actually trying to do is get brand awareness with people who are following them. These top 9s are the most engaged. So that doesn't necessarily mean they have the most likes, doesn't necessarily mean they have the most comments of all that have been posted. What it is the most interaction as a percentage of that group's overall followers. So even smaller accounts can end up in the top 9 for certain hashtags, but you mainly just want to spend time with them. I try to spend time each week. I set aside for all of my clients, and then I teach everybody that I coach that do their own social media. Try to pick 10 of these per week. Sounds like a lot, but if you just sit down and block off an hour of time and interact with, so that's 90 profiles you're going to interact with a week, because it's the top 9, 10 times, 10 different hashtags. If you do that, you are going to be shocked at the number of new followers, new comments, and new likes you have on your own page. The time you spend interacting with other people's posts will result in those amazing returns, because people want to interact with people who interact with them. So you can leave your own comment on the post, but also comment on other people's comments. Say that you agree with them, say that you disagree with them and why, or invite them to your page. Don't be spammy, don't be salesy, just interact just like you would at a networking event in person. Instagram is a community, so build your community slowly. It's frustrating. Everybody wants to grow quickly. If you go look at my Instagram account, I still have less than 1,500 followers because I spend all my time building my client's platform rather than my own. And so I don't have time to interact with other platforms on my own account as much as I should. But I'm working on that, working that into my time management system. And it's a goal for the remainder of 2018. But if you go look at all the accounts that I manage, I spend lots of time logging in and interacting with other people for those accounts. Another way or and community on Instagram is to make sure that you're giving proper credit. So you want to tag the people you work with on your weddings or events. Mentions are nice, but tags show up in the other person's profile. So what am I talking about there? So mentions are when you, in your caption, say at GT Marketing and Consulting. That tags them, or that mentions them in your caption, but it doesn't tag them. Whereas if you actually take the time to go in and tag them on your profile, then it shows up in their related images. The other thing you want to do is tag products from brands that you used in the image that you know and trust. A lot of times, especially if you're doing a styled shoot, you may bring in, some fancy jewelry or a high-end bridal gown, or even in a real wedding, you're going to have the gown that the bride was in. Tag those vendors, tag those brands, because that gives you credibility. It also gives you visibility on their page for people who follow them and love that content. And then take time to comment back on posts where you collaborated with others. They're going to share it as well. So, we all want comments on our own, but don't forget to actually go and interact. So just like you're doing with the top 9 on the previous slide, go and comment with other people you've worked with locally. Be involved in their community, comment on their stuff, like their stuff. Go in. I guarantee you, your real world brides and even your corporate clients are going to share images from their events and would love the shout out and know that you're looking at their information. The next way to grow your Instagram account is going to be Instagram stories. So how many people here comment so that I can look back here at the end? We're going to do some Q&A. How many people are actually using Instagram? Stories are an important part of your overall Instagram strategy. I read a stat this week from eMarketer that 48% of people who log into Instagram daily watch at least one story. So it says 46% on here because that was the older stat. I actually just looked it up this morning that 48% didn't have time to change the slides due to some technical difficulties that we were working through, as y'all have already seen today. So that's basically half of the people that log into Instagram every day are not only just scrolling through their feed, they're actually actively watching one of the stories at the top of the profile. They're a great way to let people get to know you. So just like you're seeing me on this webinar today, you're getting to kind of see behind, the perfectly curated feed that I put out into the world in my actual Instagram feed that is just still photographs and quotes and things that I want people to know my business for. The stories, you actually get to know the person behind the business. If you are a really creative entrepreneur, you make flowers, you're a photographer, you're a wedding planner, all kinds of different things. You can show cool behind the scenes looks, setting up for the event, leading up to the event. One of my favorite things to do on our weekends is we always show behind the scenes of the van loaded down, taking the flowers each weekend. I just love to show what all goes into the actual transporting of trying to get the flowers to the venue without breaking them and still looking amazing once we arrive. So that's a fun way to utilize Instagram stories. So if you have, we're going to move on to Facebook here in just a second. So if you have any Instagram questions, go ahead and type them in there. Megan is going to moderate some Q&A here in just a few minutes, but I want to roll through some of these other slides just to make sure that we touch on all of the profiles. I know that Instagram is the one I get the absolute most questions about on a daily basis, so I wanted to start off with that one. But we're going to move into Facebook because Facebook is still very important. I hear a lot of people try to tell me that maybe I shouldn't be on Facebook. My ideal client isn't on Facebook. They're on Instagram and Snapchat. Well, this may or may not be true because which social media apps do users open every day? 87% polled, and this was of January of this year, open Facebook every day, whereas only 49% of people who have an Instagram account open it every day. And then you see YouTube, Snapchat, and Twitter go down in percentages. Facebook is not the in social media platform anymore. It has been passed by some of the, especially with the millennials and our younger, a lot of people on this webinar today, or your ideal client falls into the category that's probably more invested in Instagram or Snapchat, but they're still using Facebook because your Facebook has almost become a de facto website. It has all the information about your business. It has links where you can click for directions. It has your hours of operation. It has your phone number where you can click and one push of the button from a mobile device, they're calling your business. So people still use Facebook as a search option and also a credibility. And here's the other reason. A lot of people I know on this webinar are wedding professionals. The mothers and dads are still on Facebook. So even if your ideal client, the bride, is more in tune with Instagram or Pinterest or Snapchat, sometimes the people helping them make their final vendor decisions, the parents, and helping them pay for the weddings and events that you want to have, are still on Facebook. So you still want to have a presence there, and you want to react differently on those two platforms. So you don't want to just treat them all the same and link them all the same. One more cool little stat here, just to kind of back up this point. Let me rotate us around here. So Facebook has, sorry for the delay there. So as of June, get the point, the monthly user increase is over 2 billion as of June of last year. So your target audience may be Instagram heavy, like I was saying, but many of the decision makers are still active daily on Facebook. So the other reason that you want to have Facebook, just from an operating standpoint, is you want to have it so that it lends credibility. If you don't have a Facebook page and somebody does go search for it, they're going to be like, why in the world do they not have a Facebook page in today's world? Just like having a website was that important a few years ago and still today as well. But it just shows your credibility. And then the other thing you want to remember is that a lot of people may not say that they're on it, but obviously these stats prove that that's not exactly the case. So what should you be doing differently on Facebook as opposed to what we talked about on Instagram? Shareability platform, whereas Instagram, you're looking at the feed, you're looking at the stories. Facebook is more, as you're well aware, an opportunity to provide content that somebody else would like to share on their own page. So video is king. Video is the way to go on Facebook. They are bound and determined to have more video on their platform than even on YouTube or Google. That is their stated goal at some of their sponsored events, and they're talking to shareholders. So video is the way to go. So if you know a videographer, make sure you get the information from events you've been a part of, get that content over. If you can also use cool things like Animoto, iMovie on your iPhone. There's a lot of apps out there that you can use for very inexpensive and take your still photographs and turn them into at least movable videos for you. The other thing you can do, Facebook Live. So just like we talked about using stories on Instagram, Facebook Live is a good way to let people in on your personality. You can do behind the scenes, you can do tips and tricks, you can do things like this where you talk about a certain topic for a while and show yourself as an expert in your field. The other thing that this does, I hear a lot of people talking about not wanting to do Facebook Live because maybe people won't like me or they won't like my personality. Well, we're all trying to not waste time with as busy as we are in today's world. So I would rather a client not book me because they've seen me on Facebook Live and know my personality rather than waste my time coming in for a consult, me spending all that time trying to work with them for us to realize after the fact that they're not a good fit. So Facebook Live allows you to kind of weed out some of the people who may not be a perfect fit for you, but you get to figure that out on the front end rather than on the back end after you've wasted time that you'll never get back. So it's a good way to just kind of allow yourself to reach out to those people and kind of tune them out. So my wife, if any of y'all follow Cece, you'll know she loves pink. She loves glitter. She loves being loud. She's loud and boisterous, and you have to make sure you turn your volume down when you watch one of her Facebook Lives. If any of those things bother you, then you're probably not her ideal client, and that's okay. That's better than her wasting 2 hours on a design presentation for a bride at the end who's going to stand up and say, I just don't think we jive, and you're a little loud and over the top for me. If they can watch a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live or an Instagram story and know that ahead of time, that's time not wasted on your end because there's so many people that will relate to that, and vice versa. I am not loud. I am not boisterous. I am more reserved with my button-down shirts and over my head here, the presidential history and American history and things that I like are a little bit anti that boisterous thing. But my ideal client is different than hers, and so that allows people to look into that. The next thing is Facebook ads. Are you just to check in, Megan? Are you seeing utilize Facebook ads as the image right now?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, just wanted to make sure good. We're still good. Okay, how are we doing on time?
Perfect. We're good.
Okay, good. All right. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because this is something that you can do an entire webinar series on is Facebook ads. But I did want to talk about the importance of having a Facebook profile so that you have the ability to do targeted ads. Facebook's been in the news lately because of all of the information they gather on us. And we're not going to go down a political hole here of whether that's a good or a bad thing. But regardless, as marketers and as business entrepreneurs, some of the information that they have on us and other consumers is valuable for you to be able to target a specific audience. The best thing about it is it's one of the few marketing mediums where you can know your true return on investment, your ROI. You can see how many people it reached, how many people clicked through to your website, and how many people took the action that you wanted them to take. Whereas old school magazine or TV commercial, you didn't know. All you knew was how many people received the magazine. You didn't know how many people actually looked at your information. So while it's somewhat frustrating, some of the information they have on us, it's there. There's nothing. It's not going away. Facebook continues to grow. All these social media platforms continue to grow. So we might as well embrace it. It's not going anywhere. So take the time to use it to your business's advantage because if not, your competitors are going to. So you might as well be a part of it. All right, let's move to Pinterest. We're going to kind of breeze through this. Again, there's so many things we could talk about, but I want to get to the question and answer at the end so that I make sure that I'm answering the questions that everybody in attendance wants to know. And like I said, I will be happy to share these slides. But Pinterest, half of all millennials use Pinterest, and 68% of women between 25 and 54 use Pinterest. Those two demographics are probably most people on this webinar's target audience, one of those two or both. And so this is the primary inspiration location on the web. It's different than the way people use Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is used more for the pretty pictures, mindless scrolling, or watching behind the scenes stuff on stories. Facebook, like I said, has become a de facto website where you can get all of the pertinent information, scroll and get your news and what you think your friends, family members, so you can share stuff back and forth with your family that lives other places and stay in connection with others. Whereas Pinterest is more of a get your inspiration, your DIY how-to projects that you would like to tackle and hobbies that you want to be a part of. And it's more of a search engine type platform than a social platform. It is technically a social media platform, but it's not the same type of interaction from a community perspective that you get on Facebook groups or Instagram community back and forth through DMs or comments back and forth on posts. So Pinterest needs to be viewed much more like Google from a standpoint of how people are using it. The real main reason for using Pinterest from a business perspective is this slide right here, which is Pinterest has influence. So only Facebook influences more people to make a purchase decision. And that's just, I think, because of how many people are on Facebook and how quickly it grew. But if you look at this percentage, 16% of people on Pinterest say that it's influenced a purchase decision. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about it from the standpoint of how little it costs you to be on these social media platforms, they're free to you other than your time, or if you're paying somebody like me to manage it for you. But that's a very small cost in the big scheme of things compared to the other options you have to market your business. And Pinterest is the fastest growing platform in terms of influence. So in 1 year, they went from 8% of people saying that an influencer purchased to 16%. So they doubled their overall influence in just a year when I looked at this stat in 2016. So that's going to continue to grow. Like I said, it's more of a search engine platform to where you can find just about anything you want to know about on Pinterest, especially weddings and events. So how can you use Pinterest to grow your business other than the influence, obviously? You want to be the expert, just like any of these platforms, but you want to connect your website to your profile. The other thing you want to do is make your website friendly to post from, to pin from. So your blogs and your portfolio page should have the pin it buttons and widgets attached to make it easy. And then you want to pin consistently. Seeing a trend here, consistency, regardless of the platform, regardless of what you're doing, whether it be your blog, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever it is, consistency is important because you start to build a following. You don't want to just drop off the map. So you want your following to know that they can count on you to provide information. So business perspective, what should I be? You can pin anything. Making the boards and your pins show your personality. But regardless of what you're pinning, it needs to be high quality images. And Pinterest did their own research and found that lifestyle images generally outperform product images. So fashion and style pins showing products in real life use saw 30% more click-throughs and 170% higher checkout rates for people who sell online. So this may not apply to you because you may not be selling a tangible product, you're selling a service, but the research remains the same. And that is, if you're using real weddings, real styled shoot images, or if you are on here and have a product that you can sell, showing them in a real world setting as opposed to just a stock image or a white background flat lay image is going to be more effective on Pinterest, not necessarily on Instagram. A lot of branded styled looks are exactly what you want for a curated feed on Instagram, but on Pinterest, you want that real world look that gives somebody a reason to want to repin that. So that being said, you want to optimize all of your images for Pinterest. Even more important on Pinterest, because 80% of the users on Pinterest are mobile. Or the images that people can pin from your website are formatted so that they show properly on a mobile device. Again, there's a lot of technical things that we could get into here and go down a rabbit hole and be on it for a very long time. But the easiest way to do it for most small businesses is just use Canva.com. Canva has predetermined templates that will resize images for you based on which platform you want to share them on. So that's the easiest tip and trick I can give you today, is if you're not already using Canva, start to learn. It will help you with that. So it's pretty simple. It's there's a free version, but if you do the basic paid version, you get a lot of other sorry, clicked off of that a little quick. If you do the paid version, you will have some other avenues that you can use there that help, such as story graphics for Instagram. So let's wrap up so we can get to some Q&A. What are the keys to social success? Consistency, regardless of the platform. Engage, don't just post. Too many people get in the habit of, I have to post at this time on this day or this often. Don't get lost in what you have to do and not interact with the community. Focus where your ideal clients are, not where you prefer to be. So just because Facebook may be your favorite social media platform to interact with personally doesn't mean that's where your clients are. Same for Instagram, same for Pinterest, same for Snapchat. Figure out who your target audience is and where they interact the most. Track it. Don't get overwhelmed trying to do it all. This is huge. So I would much rather you be really good at Instagram and not focus on Pinterest or Snapchat or Twitter at all, and have your basic Facebook profile just for people to get their information, than to try to do all of them and be mediocre at them all. So the key is the consistency and building up to each one. So start slow, do one blog per month instead of trying to come out with a goal of one per week. Do 2 to 3 posts on Instagram per week instead of having a goal to do it every day. Pinterest, look at it once a week, update your pins, update your boards, and get rid of things that no longer are relevant to your business and stay consistent with that. That's much more effective in the long term than trying to do a little bit of all of them and not being successful at any of them. So I'm just going to put this up briefly, and this is how to contact me. Again, we had a little bit of technical issue there with the G on GT Marketing and Consulting in the translation over to this technology. So, that G is supposed to be up on that same line, but I'm going to turn off the screen sharing so I can go back and see Megan and the chat and see now how we want to moderate the Q&A.
Awesome.
All right.
So Greg, if you want to mute when I'm talking, and just so we don't have a back and forth weird thing, that would be great. Awesome. Cool. Okay. So that was awesome. I have a huge page full of notes on things that I can do personally, because we are never pros at this. So, and it's always changing. So there's always things that I can be learning. So this was awesome. Thank you, Greg. So there's been a couple questions that we've already seen come into the chat, but please, as we're continuing to throw out these questions and talk about this, you please throw some other questions in there as you have them, or if something else comes to mind. But one of the things that came up was about hashtags, specifically for Instagram. So when you are trying to do those hashtags, because we know you can have up to 30 hashtags per post, are you putting them in the actual post, or are you putting them in the first comment? And then now that you're able to have hashtags in your bio, Are there limitations? Because somebody said that they were having a problem having those hashtags show up.
Yeah, so this is a great question. I didn't want to get too much into hashtags because I knew in the presentation, because I knew people would ask, and I would rather address the questions directly. So let me start with my preference, and there's no scientific proof as to which one necessarily is better, whether it be in the caption or in the first comment. I do all of my clients in the first comment just because I think it looks better. The other advantage to doing that is if you're in a time crunch in a week and you need to use the little button in Instagram to share an Instagram post over to Facebook because you just don't have time to do both, it's wedding season or it's busy at home with kids or whatever it is, and you want to post to Facebook, but you don't have time to create new content for both platforms, if you have all those hashtags in your caption, that doesn't translate well over to Facebook where hashtags aren't used. And it makes it very obvious to the Facebook user that that is just a shared Instagram post shared over to Facebook. So if you do it in the first comment, it keeps the caption really clean and crisp, and you can kind of get more use out of that post, and the hashtags still work. I'm a big believer in, if Instagram wanted you to only use 10 hashtags would be the most. So I'm a big believer in using the 30 that they give us. So not everybody agrees with that. A lot of people who do what I do say just use your 10 niche hashtags for your market and stick with that. It's totally up to you. The way I break it down for my clients and my coaching students is I want about 8 to 10 really broad hashtags that get you the quick search, the quick hits early. Very similar to the one I showed, the Southern Weddings, that has 280,000 posts. That's a good one to get you a couple of really quick likes to start. That's not going to keep you going. That's not going to have people find you 24 hours from now, or maybe even 4 hours from now after you post it, because there's so many people using that hashtag that you're not going to be relevant very long. But it's a good way to get a few quick hits early. Then use 8 to 10 hashtags that are more specific to you, smaller. So 150,000 posts down to 10,000 on that hashtag. That's your middle. That's your bread and butter. Those are the ones that if you wonder why somebody is liking or commenting on a post that you posted 4 days ago, that's where those are coming from, because there's still enough people seeing them, but not so many that you drop to the bottom of the page quickly. So your post can still be showing up there. Then the last 8 to 10 that you want to use for your 30 is very locally specific. So what I call local SEO. So for us, we're in Birmingham. So I'm going to use Birmingham weddings. I'm going to use Birmingham events. I'm going to use Alabama bride, Southern bride, something that is a moniker for your client that in your local market. So those are much more specific. And then any that you want to brand for your own business. All brands go out and try to create a hashtag that's just their own. People aren't going to interact with that initially because it's going to take a while for you to develop it, but it is something fun to have. And it's a cool way that if you ever are doing some big event, you can brand it with that information. So hopefully that helps answer that hashtag question.
No, that was great. Kelly brought up a really good point about shadow banning. Is that still a thing? Do we need to be worried about that? How's that work?
Yeah, so shadow banning is basically where people who have nothing better to do than post something inappropriate on a hashtag to get it banned. It's hackers, for lack of a better word. They're just out there having their own personal fun by getting a hashtag banned. The easiest way to see if something has been banned is go into the search bar of Instagram, go into tags, and search a hashtag that you think may be banned, or check all the ones you're using. If there's no recent post or top 9, then it's been banned. If you only see 1 or 2 images for that hashtag, it's not active. It's not going to hurt your account from a standpoint is that a lot of people thought that your account was getting blocked. It's not. All it is doing is it sometimes will make even the hashtags that aren't banned not work because you've posted them in the same comment. So I try to monitor those on a monthly basis. If you have time to do it sooner than that, obviously it's better. But when you're when you're doing all the things it takes to run your business on a daily basis, you can't get engulfed in just social media. Even me, who I run social media for other companies, but I have enough clients that you can't go down that rabbit hole every day or every week. But if you put it on your calendar, as when I do it is when I'm updating my content calendar for the month. I go through and recheck my hashtags, see that they're all active, and get rid of the ones that aren't performing, whether they're banned or not. So it's a good time just to kind of cull what you're using and switch out a few to better perform for the next month.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's nice to know that we don't need to be like too worried about it. Okay, so finding better hashtags or finding the best hashtags for you went through a little bit of a formula, but is there a way that you would suggest doing a little bit of research? I know Gabriella asked, is there an app to help find better hashtags?
There's a couple of different apps that you can go out and get. I personally think there's two really good ways to do it, and that is you can use Iconosquare, is an app that is an auto poster very similar to Planoly or Later, but it does a lot more in-depth analytics on the back end, and one of the things they have is a hashtag research tool. You can also just go into Google. It's so intuitive. Just go to your Google search bar and search hashtags for XYZ business or type of business that you have. So that will lend a lot of results. Scroll past the first couple that are the paid ads that people put there on Google with the AdWords. Scroll till you get to the organic search, but you can find some good hashtag lists there. Ultimately, the best research, though, is find at least one hashtag that is working for you, and then look at the related hashtag inside of Instagram itself. So type in that hashtag in the search bar, and it'll show you the first 5 to 10 related hashtags right under it, and just go down the rabbit hole. Click on the next one and get the next 10 related hashtags to that one. Because if that one is already working for you and your business, then the other ones that are related to it would probably work as well. So that's the best overall effectiveness.
That's great. Yeah, and I think we all have been down that Instagram rabbit hole probably more times than we would like to admit. I know me for sure. Okay, so I want to pivot from Instagram to Pinterest. Zara, I hope I'm saying your name right. So she is a videographer, and she said she was wondering, because she struggles with ways to market video on Pinterest. So I know no prep time here, so we're just going to throw this one at you and see if you have any thoughts. But what do you think?
Yeah, so the easiest way to do that is going to be, it's not nearly as effective from a video perspective as you can get on Instagram or Facebook. But for Pinterest, if you have a really good high quality image that represents the video that you want to show, that's what's going to attract the user originally. The other thing is, like we talked about a little bit in the slides, make sure that your image is formatted for Pinterest. So it's a very weird shape that Pinterest uses. The dimensions are very odd and usually much more vertical, whereas Instagram is a square and Facebook is a long rectangle, horizontal. Pinterest is much more vertical. And so a lot of times people share an image and don't realize that it's not going to translate well on their mobile device. So make sure whatever you take that screenshot from your video, take it over into Canva, or if you're a videographer, you're probably using, Editor or Photoshop. So you may be using something even, more intuitive than Canva, but whatever it is, resize it to the Pinterest size so that it's the most effective. And then make sure you have a really good link back to that video, so that if people are drawn in from the image, you are taking them where you want them to go. Don't have them connected to your homepage or a generic portfolio. Make it linked to the video that you want to promote. Like, make it easy. The easiest thing for Americans in general is that if you can click it once and go to where you want it to go, that's what makes Google, that's why they've become so popular, is that they spend all this time making sure that what you're searching for is what you find. And if you don't, and people hit the back button, they're penalized very quickly on their own SEO, and they won't be showing up in search results very long. So that's the best way to do it. With Pinterest being a search engine type platform as well, that's the best thing to do there, is give them the relevant content.
That's a great idea. Yeah, you're right. It is a very odd shape or strange way that Pinterest likes content. So I think that's really helpful, of finding a great photo that really conveys what you're trying to get across. So Zara, I hope that's helpful. And you'll definitely have to tell us how that works for you. We'd love to see that. So I think we have time for one more question. So this goes back to something you talked about different image types for different platforms. I know you were just talking about the shape and how those dimensions can be really important. But is there something about like what is in the image that performs better on Instagram versus Pinterest versus Facebook? And does Twitter even matter? Like, so what do you think?
Yes, absolutely. There are differences across the platforms. So the biggest difference, let's start in the order that we did the presentation. So Instagram, there's two important factors for images on Instagram. That is, one, they need to be a high quality image. So actually three. I'm going to give you three. A high quality image. Faces tend to perform better on Instagram than a lot of the images you see on Facebook where you're trying to promote a certain, whether it be the dress or the bouquet or zoomed in on the jewelry of the day. It still performs better on Instagram to show the overall body and the face of the person involved and use the caption to get across what you're trying to promote, as opposed to just zooming in on the one thing. So that's very important on Instagram as opposed to Facebook or Pinterest. You can zoom in, crop it, and just show what you're trying to get across on the other platforms. Instagram, the engagement is out the roof if you show a face with the picture. And then the last thing that we didn't talk much about today, because I wanted to hit on all the platforms, but from Instagram, you also want to have a consistent look. You'll hear people talk about a curated feed. That's not to say that you have to have, the exact same style or that you have to alternate every other picture. You see people doing that. I do that on mine. I have quotes every other picture and then real high quality images every other one, so that it gives a cool grid look. That's more just because I really love quotes, and from a perspective of a social media digital manager, I don't have a product that I'm selling or a certain thing that I'm putting out there for the world. I like quotes and inspiration and motivation to keep people going. So that's a good way for me to curate my feed. On the flip side, you take Cece's feed that I do, the consistency that we do there is a very open look, bright colors alternated with the white colors in her flower designs. And at least once out of every 9 pictures, because most people look at Instagram as a 9-grid feed on your, whether it be on your desktop or your mobile device, 1 out of every 9 pictures has her face. She's the face of the business. So I would highly recommend anybody who is the face of their business either do a Friday introduction or do some kind of post that allows it to organically make sense that they're sharing their own picture. You've got entire profiles that are built specifically on just selfies, whether it be the Kardashians or, a lot of your singers, Ariana Grande, that are literally just one picture after another of themselves. So that works. It's not going to work for every business, but every 9th picture is not that bad. And it allows people who may not scroll to see all of your feed, if they see those 9, they'll know who you are and what your brand represents. Then on Facebook, to answer your question, the type of images you want over there they're still going to be high quality, but it's not as big a deal because the pixel rate is different on Facebook. You can get away with it. People are used to sharing things that are not all professional, and you don't have a grid feed where you're showing images side by side. So you can get away with showing a lower quality image on Facebook because it's a standalone image that's not going to be seen side by side with others. And then lastly, on Pinterest, again, is the biggest thing there is making sure it's formatted properly, and that when they click on it, that it goes somewhere. So many people pin something on Pinterest and it has nowhere to go. It's just pinned to your page. You need a URL back to either your website or back to your Instagram page, so that if they love your image enough to click on it and want more info, it takes them somewhere. So much of Pinterest is just pinning for the fun of pinning. But from a business perspective, we want to make money. So you've got to have them tied back for that one person who might actually take the time to go down the rabbit hole and find out who pinned this originally and tie them back to where you want them to be to make money.
That was great. That was super helpful. And apparently now I have an excuse to post more pictures of myself. So perfect. So if anybody follows me, get ready for more. Well, I think on that note, we are going to say goodbye for today, but thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. And I've also put Greg's contact information in the top of the chat. So make sure you go follow him on Instagram and learn all about what he does and more tips all the time. But thank you so much. Thank you, Greg. It was awesome to have you here. Yeah, it was a blast. And like I said, I learned so much. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And if anybody needs any help, I'll be happy to help you.
Perfect. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.